Hello everybody and welcome back to the strawberry fields. The morning light filtered through the mismatched curtains of the apartment, casting warm glows across the cracked tile floors. Kaori was already bustling around, putting on her cardigan and sipping warm coffee and muttering lesson plans to herself as she grabbed her bag. Tokie, still in her slippers, shuffled around the kitchen humming an old love song, carefully pouring tea into a cracked mug and plating some slightly uneven biscuits. Soon enough, Kaori rushed out the door, waving dramatically as she was leaving for basically war. Left alone, Tokie sat in the wobbly chair, sipping on her tea slowly as she stared at the blinking cursor in her laptop. The confession book was done. A soft, private little story that only her heart and her computer would ever know. She read over it one more time, smiling a little bit too sadly at the very last line, before closing the file and whispering to herself, maybe someday. Needing to shake off the feeling the book had stirred, Tokie grabbed her guitar and flopped on the couch. The apartment echoed with soft strumming and the occasional loud wrong note as she worked through the new riff she'd been practicing. Her brows furrowed, tongue poking out slightly in concentration until she finally hit the rhythm just right. Soon enough, Tokie found herself slipping into her uniform and fluffing her hair before running out the door to head to work. And just then, Kaori returned, seeing her dad at the door. With a quick hug and a quick kiss, Kaori left saying that Wolfgang had planned a very important date. Kaori met Wolfgang at the park. They wandered beneath the trees and shared inside jokes. They sat near the pond, feeding ducks between bites of slightly squished sandwiches. Kaori's laughter rang through trees like wind chimes, and Wolfgang couldn't stop looking at her. As the sun began to dip, casting long shadows across the grass, Wolfgang stood up awkwardly and mumbled something about stretching his legs. Kaori raised an eyebrow, teasing him until he suddenly dropped to one knee, pulling out a little box he'd been hiding in his hoodie pocket all day. Her hands flew to her mouth in shock, and she screamed, yes. Soon enough, Kaori wiped happy tears from her cheek while Wolfgang tried and failed not to cry. It was silly, but it was perfect for them. It was absolutely unforgettable. The morning light spilled gently into the cramped little apartment, where Kaori was already bustling around the kitchen in fuzzy socks. The smell of cinnamon and butter crept under Tokie's bedroom door, luring her out, only to be stopped mid-yawn by the sight of gnomes materializing. She blinked once, twice, then began the sacred ritual of appeasement with practiced hands. Unfortunately, Kaori tried to give one of them a fruitcake, instantly triggering a lightning bolt and a firm, gnome-sized vendetta. Shrugging it off with a laugh, Kaori turned back to the kitchen, throwing herself into holiday prep like she was auditioning for a cooking show. Dessert done. Appetizers nailed. The grand meal practically glowing with golden glaze. Tokie helped in her own way, chopping herbs while strumming a few lines on her guitar, letting the melody drift into a new song she named Turkey in C minor. She even brewed up some mulled tea with too many cloves, proudly declaring it spiced with ambition. By the time guests began arriving, the apartment was bustling with warmth. Literally, thanks to the oven and the slightly suspicious radiator. Jordan brought flowers, Miyu and Toshiro brought juice in hand, and Akihiro arrived wearing a shirt that was almost seasonally appropriate. Soda and Ruben showed up fashionably late, arguing about who had the better pie. They all squeezed around the mismatched table, plates overflowing and laughter echoing off the walls. As the night drew on, they took turns saying what they were thankful for. Music, good food, awkward romance, personal growth, and the gnomes who know forgiveness. Toshiro babbled on about school, and Tokie acted like she was listening. Kaori made sure to snap a few candid photos of it all, knowing that it would definitely become one of her favorite memories. This Harvestfest was filled with chaos, and it was absolutely lovely. Just perfect for the Nakamura family household. Kaori was brushing her hair into a tidy bun and carefully selecting her blazer the next morning. She floated through her morning routine with practiced grace, buttered toast with one hand while sending a reminder email with the other. Tokie, on the other hand, emerged from her room in a hoodie that may have been inside out. Later that morning, Tokie met up with Sung-Ki at the local cafe. They grabbed a booth by the window, sipping on iced lattes and catching up in that familiar, comfortable rhythm. Tokie made a joke about a gnome uprising, and Sung-Ki countered with a pun about garden diplomacy, and somehow, between sips and sideways glances, the space between them shifted. A shared smile lingered too long, a casual brush of hands sparked something quieter, and a lot warmer. By the time Tokie stood up to leave, they were both laughing at something neither would remember later. Sung-Ki offered to walk her out, and as the coffee doors jingled shut behind them, Tokie felt her heart doing a very inconvenient fluttery thing. She told herself it was just caffeine. It absolutely was not. Soon enough, just as Tokie arrived back home, she was heading out the door with the guitar case slung over her shoulders. She waved towards Kaori just as they intersected paths, and Kaori, freshly home from work, kicked off her flats, stretched dramatically, and texted Wolfgang a simple "movie night?" And just like that, Wolfgang arrived in his softest pajama bottoms and an oversized band tee Kaori insisted he stole from her. They curled up under a cozy blanket with popcorn, rom-coms, and the warm glow of candlelight filling the apartment. Between dramatic movie twists and shared inside jokes, Kaori leaned her head on Wolfgang's shoulder, and soon the movie was just background noise to their kisses, whispering teases, and eventually tangled giggles from the bedroom. After one final raid of the fridge for a shared slice of leftover pie, the two collapsed into bed, exhausted and blissful. Wolfgang fell asleep with his arm around Kaori, mumbling something about how she always picked the best movies, even if he didn't remember the ending. The apartment smelled like lemon spray and freshly brewed espresso as Kaori and Tokie tidied up side by side. Tokie, now a self-declared coffee connoisseur, paused mid-dusting to critique the crema on her second latte of the morning, while Kaori rolled her eyes and vacuumed louder in protest. It was a calm, productive start filled with sisterly banter and morning light through the grimy windows. Later that day, Tokie met Minsu at the park, where the breeze was warm and the flirting came easy. They sat and swapped memories and jokes like no time had passed at all. Minsu complimented Tokie's laugh, and Tokie accidentally touched his hand. Before long, the day ended with blushing cheeks and a hopeful glance back over her shoulder. Feeling bold, Tokie sent a light-hearted, flirty text to Sung-Ki on the walk home, only to be met with silence. No bubble, no reply. Her stomach sank. Maybe she crossed the line again. It was getting hard to know what was okay and what wasn't okay with Sung-Ki. Things were just easier with Minsu. Shrugging off the feeling, or at least trying to, Tokie changed into her stage wear and dashed off to work, trying to channel her tangled emotions into her performance. Meanwhile, Kaori met up with Nara for just a quick chat, but something felt off. Their laughter didn't sync like it used to, and Nara kept checking her phone. Kaori sipped her drink slowly, unsure if the quiet growing between them was distance or just the weight of adulthood. Soon enough, Kaori returned home. She needed to fold laundry, and she sat on the couch with a little ache settling in her chest. Something only Wolfgang could help with. The city pulsed with glowing lanterns and soft music as the Romance Festival bloomed to life. Kaori and Wolfgang walked down together, looking charming as always. As the festival began, the air was filled with laughter, sweet sakura tea, and a faint scent of incense. Kaori dared Wolfgang to sip the love tea with her, and he, ever the rebel, did so with a dramatic flair and a fake spoon. They giggled through painting a terribly flirty mural together, mostly smearing paint on each other, and dared each other to ask the romance guru their love fate, only to be told that their love was meant for the stars. Neither of them complained. As the sun dipped and the paper lanterns glowed brighter, Wolfgang tugged Kaori close, near the petals falling from above. They slowly danced to music playing by someone's speaker and swayed clumsily. It was a perfect kind of night. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to stay tuned for our next one. Okay? Stay safe and stay cozy. Bye!